So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I was asked to speak about investing in your well-being. So I'm really happy to join you guys tonight. As a personal trainer and health coach, I am a mom. I understand that there is a very, very fine line between being there for others and being there and taking care of our own needs. So again, tonight, my name is Jodi Nadler. I am a personal trainer and health coach here at the Chamber Center for Wellbeing. And tonight we're just going to touch base on a few different topics. Of course, we're going to start off and talk about why we're supposed to be taking care of ourselves. At the risk of restating the obvious, right? We're all supposed to take care of ourselves, but we're going to go into a little bit more about the whys. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the signs that we should be conscious of when we're feeling that we need to spend a little bit more time on ourselves. We're also going to talk about how to begin. What's the game plan? How to get started? And also talk about some different actions that we can take. And at the end, we're going to end with a nice, relaxing, guided breathing technique called the box breathing technique, just to kind of wind us down at the end of our day. So why should we invest in our well-being, right? It should be an obvious statement, right? If we're not happy, if we're not healthy, does anything else really matter? It's a pretty simple concept, right? Or is it, right? We can have all the money in the world. We can have 1 million social media followers. We can have a home on every continent. But if you're not feeling good inside, does any of that stuff really matter? It has no meaning, right? So it's a simple concept, but for some reason, we're so hesitant to prioritize our own needs. We think about investing. We usually think about our financial plans, but if we shift our thoughts to investing into ourselves, that is where we're going to find our true wealth. So I found this statement online, and I really, really love it. I think it hits the nail on the head. It says, our outer world is always a reflection of your inner world. So start to become aware of your inner world and make your well-being #1 priority. So first of all, it's so true that we have to focus on ourselves. It hits the nail on the head, and I think it's really powerful because it allows us to prioritize ourselves, and it gives us permission to start to take care of our own needs. So one of the questions that we have is that, why don't we take care of ourselves? And then I'm going to go back to that other slide in just a minute. But one of the things that stops us from taking care of ourselves, think about it, right? When you're a kid, you're always told when you're sharing and you're doing good for your friends, right? You become a really good friend. When you are you do so much for your kids, right? You're talking about, oh, you go over and above for your kids. Well, you're such a good mom, right? When you are doing extra hours at work and you are going above and beyond, right? You are such a good worker, right? So even in our spiritual world, right? We're told to sacrifice for the benefit of others. So you have to ask yourself, right? When we're doing all of these things and that makes us good. So if we prioritize ourselves, does that make us bad, right? And I know that's a little bit of a play on words, but I think part of that holds true in our subconscious mind, right? So, well, if we take care of ourselves, doesn't that make us selfish? I look at the definition of selfishness, and it's devoted to or caring only for oneself, concerning primarily with ourselves, one's interests, benefits, welfare, regardless of others. Taking on action to preserve one's own benefit. Most of us don't really do that, right? We have to find that balance. So spending time dedicating to ourselves is not being selfish. It's about creating balance in our lives, right? We all know that old expression, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? It was something that our grandmother used to say, right? but it still holds true. You know, when you're on the airplane, they tell us to put your own mask on before helping those around you. Because if we're not feeling good and we're not feeling whole, how are we supposed to do well for others? So we need to think about, how do we know when it's time, right? We go, go, go all day long. Especially now, a lot of us are working from home. We're juggling work from home responsibilities. We're cooking dinner. We're teaching our kids. We're constantly engaging. We're constantly working on helping those around us. So sometimes it's really hard to recognize when you finally hit that wall. So some of the signs to look for, you know, is when you're feeling a little off your game. And sometimes that could be something so subtle, right? Your sleep might just be a little bit off, let's say. You're feeling a little bit more stressed than usual. Sometimes you have that feeling in your chest like, oh gosh, please don't let that phone ring one more time, right? You're kind of just at your wit's end. Some of us might feel that our energy is really low. When all you do is look forward to sitting on the couch at the end of the day. When you're feeling pulled by everybody else's responsibilities, you're home, you're trying to do work, you're trying to make dinner, your kids are asking you questions, the phone is ringing, your mother is calling, your father-in-law is calling, right? You're always feeling as if you need to put your own needs aside for others. Sometimes that might be felt as feeling a little overworked. You know, and again, we might just be feeling a little unmotivated. So let's think about this, right? How many of these signs have you felt in, especially the last 2 years? I know I've felt probably most of them at some point or another in the last couple of years. How about in the last month? You know, have you felt these things, you know, in the last month or even in the last week? Again, you know, being honest, I think we've all felt these things. So when we're feeling overwhelmed and every part of our life feels like we need to prioritize, it's really hard to just point out one or two things. So like everything else in our life, the way to narrow things down is to have a plan. As a health coach, we look at food a little bit different than most people, okay? So I'm going to give you a scenario to explain the difference. So think back when you were a kid and you're outside playing. You finished school for the day, you finished your homework, you're outside playing with your friends, you're in the fresh air, you're socializing, you're playing kickball, all your best friends in the neighborhood are there, you're exercising, running around. And at least from when I was a kid, you know, all the moms would stick their heads out the window at 5:30 and scream their kid's name, you know, calling you home to come for dinner. Kids could really care less about dinner at that point, right? Food has no meaning because they're feeding themselves with other things that are nurturing them. It's their friends, it's a hobby, it's the exercise, it's the fresh air, right? Another scenario, you start dating somebody for the first time and you're sitting with them in this fancy restaurant. You're gazing to their eyes and you're just so engaged with this person on a deep connection level. You're building this relationship, this connection, and you almost can forget that you have this beautiful lobster dinner sitting in front of you, right? That food really doesn't have the same impact. So when we're talking about food as a health coach, we look at something called secondary food. And that's the things that we eat. That's what we consume. Those are our macronutrients. Those are our protein, carbs, fats, vitamins, our minerals, our hydration, right? But there's another category called primary foods. And these are the things that really nurture our soul. Things in this category would be things like our creativity, okay? What does that include? Creativity could be tapping into any part of our creative juices. It could be having a hobby. It could be doing a craft. It might be being creative in the kitchen, coming up with a new recipe. Arts, maybe you enjoy writing. Maybe even, you know, in your head thinking of a joke, right, that you might want to engage with your friends with. Our finances, another really important primary food for all of us. Because when our finances are in a good place, we're at peace. When our finances are not in a good place, it just creates chaos for us. Our careers. Are you being fulfilled every day? Do you feel like you have purpose? Joy, that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's not joy necessarily because you did something and it makes you happy. It's just overall your feeling of experiencing joy in your life. Our social life and our relationships, slightly different. Our relationships are really, speaking of our deeper connection, which most of us have those deeper connections with really a handful of people. Then there's our social life where we engage in activities with a lot of people. Good differences. I remember my kids telling me when they were in high school, well, I'm going to get together with my 15 best friends. Okay. None of us really have 15 best friends, right? It's really, that's really more of the social life aspect and the relationships of those deeper connections. We have our education. Are we learning every day? Are we growing? Do we feel that we are learning a new skill? Our home environment, again, very, very important. Is it a happy place for us to go to? Does it give us a serene place, a peaceful place to go? Home cooking, again, home cooking is really interesting and it's very near and dear to my heart because it's not just about creating a meal. I find that when you connect with the food that you are providing, it's really very grounding and it's something that you can make an experience out of. Our health, again, very self-explanatory. Without physical health, all these other areas are impacted. Physical activity doesn't necessarily have to be planned exercise. It could just be, just moving. How often are you moving every day? That's good for the adrenaline, it's good for the mood. And lastly is our spirituality, and that could be a religion, but it doesn't have to be. It's really our connection to something larger than ourselves, like nature, let's say. Okay, so it's really just that grounding connection to something larger than ourselves. So how do we use these primary foods? Okay, so here is the Circle of Life that's put out by the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. This is the certifying body that I got my health coaching certification from, and I really do love their pie chart here because it breaks down all those primary foods into equal parts. Okay, so it gives us a great visual for a starting point, and it's a great tool to help us learn where we might need to put a little bit of extra time and attention. So even though it's all equal parts and equally important, you're going to notice in a minute how it impacts us is going to be very individual. Okay, as is the way that we approach how we then approach the actions to write the areas that need to be given attention. Sorry. So here is the way we use this tool. On the outside of the circle means that you really very satisfied in that area of your life. If you have a dot on the inner part of the circle, that means you really need to put a little bit more attention into that area of your life. So we would ask somebody to go around and just put dots, on each category. So now we can start to see how this can create a plan, right? We're all very, very busy in our days. So when everything seems to need our attention, this is a great way to help us prioritize where we need to put our attention, but then also help us start to narrow down the action steps that will help us feel better in those areas of our lives. And again, that's a very personal actions. Case in point, for example, let's say, for example, somebody's feeling stressed all the time. My mother, she loves to go get her nails done. For her, that really helps her relax. That's a very pampering experience, very peaceful, very relaxing. She says, Jodi, you look stressed, go get your nails done. And I'm like, well, not so much my thing. You could see, not my thing. But I go, because if she's finding it relaxing, I should too. And, I'll go to the nail salon and first thing you do is you look at 1,000 nail polish colors. Right away, I have stress, right? Picking one color out of 1,000 nail polishes, I'm like, I've made decisions all day. I don't think I can make one more decision. Then you sit down and I start looking at my watch saying, well, how much more time is this? I do personal training. I'm going to mess up my nails tomorrow. And, and I leave there feeling actually more stressed because I'm like, I just wasted $10 because I'm going to mess up my nails and I wasted 30 minutes of my time, right? So when we break down our categories on the pie here, it's very important to then look at your particular areas of need, and then we can start coming up with some action steps, okay? Clearly, this person who completed this circle of life feels that they're not very connected when it comes to their home cooking, their spirituality, and they don't look like they're very fulfilled in their careers, right? So what we might do is start to make some action steps to help correct some of those things. Okay. So now again, we're talking about, ways to invest in our well-being and making that very, very personal. However, there are definitely a few different ways that are universal that will help you in all of those areas on the pie chart, regardless of, which ones are really more prominent than others. My first one, favorite, obviously, as a trainer, we want to move, right? Moving is so important for so many reasons. The benefits of movement are, they're right up on here on the screen. Increased movement really improves your life satisfaction and interpersonal relationships. You grab a friend, you go for a walk. It creates an environment that you can connect with them. Get out into nature, get some fresh air. Gives you more of that sense of community. When we move more, we feel better, and it creates that ripple effect that we create better eating habits for ourselves. Another benefit of movement is that increasing our movement delays the effects of neurodegeneration, which will help us increase our functional abilities. It's actually been shown that as we're moving, it helps with learning new information. Okay, case in point, a study was done where if you're, let's say, on the telephone and you're moving back and forth, you're actually able to retain more information. So that little bit of movement really helps you learn and retain new information. Benefits of movement, stress management, boosts our mood, helps decrease anxieties, sleep quality, better energy in the day, and it improves our circulation and aids in exercise regeneration and recovery. So movement overall has been shown to create a happier overall satisfaction of life. There's all different ways that you can do movement. Movement does not necessarily need to be planned exercise. Okay, so what does that mean? Go outside for a walk. It could be, put the music on when you're making dinner and dance. It could be, making sure you park further away from the entrance of the building so that you get a little bit of extra, walking. And again, I'm not necessarily only talking about walking. Like I said, just move. When you're on the telephone, walk back and forth. There's so many different ways. You can come in here. We have lots of exercise classes. So if you want to have a planned movement, we have training here. You could download exercise, download music. Any way you can get that extra movement in. I know so many people talk about their 10,000 steps a day, right? That's a very, very common thought process when we talk about our walking. But I like to expand that a little bit because, again, so many of us, we have our Fitbits, we have our Apple Watches, and we stare at that number. I just find that adds a little bit of extra stress to things. So I like to tell clients to have 150 minutes of movement a week. You could divide that up any way you want. It could be 5 minutes of dancing when you're waiting for, something to come out of the oven. It could be, well, some people dance in the shower. I know everybody plays their music there. So any kind of extra movement you can add. Okay. The next category that's pretty universal is meditation. I kind of chunk that together with meditation, deep breathing. Sometimes people like prayer. First off, we're going to talk, excuse me, the benefits of meditation. You know, we look at meditation really as a way to focus our attention and get the stress and anxiety away from our jumbled thoughts, right? We all have so many thoughts going through our heads these days, right? We wear so many hats in the day. So by taking the focus off of those thoughts, putting it into ourselves really helps to decrease that stress. It brings that peace and calm into our lives, and it can actually help improve memory, attention, creativity, eases anxieties. It will lower your blood pressure. And yes, there are certain forms of meditation that take a lot of practice, and you really need to know those techniques. However, you don't need to know that to get started. Some of my favorite phone apps, there's Insight Timer, there's Calm, there's Headspace. They all have really, really great free versions and have guided meditations. They could be 5 minutes, they could be 20 minutes. There are so many different apps out there. So, just download one, try it, and, start putting it into your daily routine, even if it's just 5 minutes. The next category here, obviously, is like I said before, there's some deep breathing, and we are going to go into a deep breathing technique at the end of the presentation. But I want to talk a little bit about HeartMath, which is a deep breathing meditation that we do here at the center, where we learn to focus our thoughts with our heart and our heart rate. Here at the center, we will do that using software so we can monitor your heart rate, and so you can learn and feel what that connection is all about. It's really a great program that we get started with here, and then you can continue to use that at home. Like I said, the other category here in the deep breathing meditation category is prayer, and that's a very personalized thing. Everybody has their own form of prayer, whether it's attached to a religious affiliation or not. That's just something that's very deeply personal, and if that's something that you connect with, then that is also another great thing to incorporate into your daily life. This is one of my favorites. It's to be curious. Again, this will connect back to almost all of those areas of the pie that we showed before, right? Making a commitment to learning something new. Learn a new skill. That might help with your connection to your career and feeling fulfilled. Maybe learning a new recipe, and that will connect back to, that home cooking. Maybe learning a new exercise. Knowledge is power, and the more we commit to learning things, the better we're going to feel. We have improved confidence level, improved self-esteem. Nowadays, it's so easy to find forms and resources to help you learn something, right? There's self-development books, there's learning a new hobby, or you can go onto YouTube, you can go onto masterclass, you could join a physical class doing something. I know, getting out of your comfort zone, right? How many of us have been in our comfort zone with COVID, right? For the last 2 years, we've been very comfortable at home, wearing our sweatpants, right? Watching Netflix, just really, I don't want to say turning our brains off, right? But we really did not engage in a whole lot of new learning. So when we start to come out of that cocoon and we start to learn some new skills, it really does help us feel so much better about ourselves. So I definitely say give that a try. I know during COVID, I couldn't sit still any longer after the first few months. I know myself, I looked up on YouTube, I learned how to refinish my kitchen table. Like so many others, I made many different types of bread, right? Banana bread, no knead bread, So again, it's so easy to find resources. So I definitely say make a commitment to learning something new. So what other things could we do? Little tips to make time for ourselves and really have time to implement some of these actions. Number one, prioritize yourself. I know that's sometimes really hard for us to do. So a tip I tell people all the time is put an appointment in your calendar, right? You would never just blow off a doctor's appointment, right? So if you have an appointment for yourself in your calendar, you're not going to just blow that off either. Whether it's making an appointment to do your exercise for the day, or make an appointment to make sure you connect with your friends. I know my sister, every Sunday night, she makes what we call her Sunday night calls, right? She makes sure she gets in touch with everybody just to say hi and make that connection, because those social interactions are so important. I remember when my kids were really little, I was a very busy single mom. I walk around, spit up on my shirt and, taking care of so many things. I would literally put in my daily calendar, 10 a.m. shower. It sounds silly, but when we do those things for ourselves, we just feel so much better. So that's one thing we definitely can do. The next thing, staying present. We're so used to multitasking, but find a way to stay present. Whether it's a designated game night with your family, turn off all social media. In my house during dinner, TV always goes off, phones off. We make sure that we really connect with each other, talk about our day, and really have that opportunity to speak about things that are important to us and connect beyond the, hey, how's the weather? What are you doing today? So that's something that I feel is really, really important. Decluttering. Declutter your environment, your mind, your to-do list. Prioritize getting your stuff done so that you don't have to keep looking at it, right? That procrastination of having everything to do, it causes so much extra stress and anxiety. And when you start to declutter, you will then have more time to focus on, let's say, some of those primary foods that we have talked about before. And lastly, being open, right? Be open to new challenges, new relationships, new ideas, things that you might not really think that you're going to be good at, or maybe are a little unsure of. Just say yes anyway and do them. I remember a while back, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and it was so easy for me just to sit on my couch. I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't want to engage. And I remember reading the book A Year of Yes. It's written by Shonda Rhimes, the TV supermogul, right? She produces so many great TV shows. And I remember reading this book, and her sister challenged her to say yes to every opportunity, every party invitation, every work task, every challenge, every new project. And she talks about how going through this process of just saying yes to everything and how that made such an incredible impact on her work satisfaction, her personal growth, her social relationships. It really helped her grow as a person. So no, you don't have to say yes to everything. But maybe when something presents itself to you, say yes, even though you're thinking you might want to say no. So those are some really quick tips that you can integrate. Now you don't have to do the Circle of Life pie chart. These are just some quick tips that really will help you expand and make you feel better, and it will definitely contribute to your well-being. And hopefully that ripple effect will help you get through to all those other areas on the pie chart. So what I would like to do now is, like I said, go back to what we talked about before, and there's the box breathing technique. And I love this technique because it is good at any time of day, right? You could do it first thing in the morning, and it will help you set that intention for the day. You can also do it at the end of the day, where you might just need to unwind. or you could do it right in the middle of your day. Something might be stressful. You could be in a stressful meeting and you can do this and nobody will even know. But it will help you get through that stressful situation. So what we're going to do is I want you to get into a nice comfortable position. It's a really simple technique. It's a 4-4-4 count. When we do the inhale, I really want you to take that breath in and draw it right down to your belly. So we're going to take a deep breath in for 4 counts. We're going to hold it for 4 counts. Then we're going to exhale. And let's just do a few different rounds. So I hope that you're going to join me. You could do this with your eyes open or closed. I'm going to keep my eyes open just because I'm going to be engaging with you guys. So if you want, you can put your hand on your belly to make sure that your breath is getting down low. If that's not comfortable for you, you can just keep your hands at your side or in your lap. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold it for 2, 3, 4. And let it out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. We can do it again. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. And let it out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Let's do one more time. Deep breath in. 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold it. And let it out. Good. I hope that helps you unwind at the end of your day here. I am so glad you joined me today. I hope I gave you a couple little tidbits that will help you contribute to your well-being journey. I think we have some time for some questions, if anybody has any questions. Nope. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really I enjoyed spending this time with you. Feel free to come on down to the Chamber Center and check us out here. And again, enjoy the rest of your evening.